I'm still thinking some about my 4-H life, so I'm going to go back there today to start with. August was a very, very busy month for 4-H clubs. And in the county, there were several clubs, and they could do different things to get ready. And one thing in the middle of August, they put on a play. Now, this wasn't, I think this was, they got points for this, but they weren't, we didn't get ribbons or anything like that. And I can only remember one play we put in, and I don't know, I don't ever remember trying out for a part. All I remember is at one 4-H meeting, they handed some of us playbooks and said, "This is your part." Well, the leaders had decided that we needed to try this once. So anyway, we got this, and the first thing they did was hand Bob and I a slingshot. And they said we were going to be, I would say, bratty 8-year-olds. And we had a sister, a 16-year-old sister, and she had a boyfriend, and we had our mother and dad, and I can't remember whether there was anybody else in this or not. But anyhow, these plays were put on the stage in the theater. And so when we started, why, we put this play on, and the thing was that we were really giving the sister and the boyfriend a bad time. And I can remember that every once in a while we were supposed to be shooting him with these slingshots and so on. But the funny part of this was most of us were like 13, 14 years old, and we were the ones that started the 4-H club, and we'd only been in this club 3 years. So we were all about the same height, same size, but that didn't seem to matter. I know that I wore a pair of shorts that came just a little bit above my knees, and I wore my hair in pigtails with ribbons on the back, and I can't remember. I think Bob even went barefoot sometimes. But anyway, we were just about as tall as our 16-year-old sister. The boyfriend was a little bit taller, and the mother was a little bit taller, but Dad was shorter than all of us. So I think it was comedy in more than one way. And like I say, we didn't have placements for that. Then that was about the middle of August. And then about 2 weeks later, we had a style show. And so anyone that had made a garment or anything, they would model this. And it was also on the theater stage. And like I said before, I made these 2 dresses, so I modeled my sailor dress. And you'd start on one side of the stage and walk across, and then turn a little circle and walk on out. Well, that we did get ribbons on, red, white, red. Yeah, started with blue, red, and white. And of course, since we were a new club, and the other clubs had people in it a lot older than us and experienced, because they'd probably been in for several years if you're going for 8, and most of these were 13, 14, and so on. So the older ones that they're modeling, they used a more harder pattern, and their clothes were a little better. I don't know how you'd say it. Anyway, a better exhibit than us. The boys could also model, but they wore suits and casual wear, just their own, to see how they were. And I don't know how they were how they were judged. And at this time, there were 2 4-H clubs that always came up out on top. When they added all their points up and so on, they'd come up on top, and there was a big competition between them. One was State Line Club, and it was at Canarado, and I think the other's name was Harmony Hustlers. Anyhow, they were ruling. And every year it seemed like one or the other of them were the top clubs. So they weren't paying much attention to a new club and young kids and so on. And like I say, they weren't paying much attention to us, but they should have been. Because we were pretty gung-ho, and the parents were too. Well, the first year that we done it, the first year that I had the calf, why, and I don't know who done it because I didn't help paint it, but somebody, and surely they got permission from the county agent, I don't know, but they made a banner that was about 4 feet long and, oh, I don't know, probably 6 feet. It was a pretty good sized banner, and it was made out of kind of heavy white material. And on this banner, and the two top corners, they had made four-leaf clovers, and that was a sign for 4-H, their picture. And between these two four-leaf clovers, they put our name, Grant Boosters. And then we had about probably 15 kids in the livestock and turkey and rabbit exhibits. And they named, like, for instance, mine said baby beef, and then it said the class he was in, and then there was a dash, and then my name, Marie Days, was on there. And they put up this sign right inside the cattle barn, and they nailed it to the wall. Well, this first year, our livestock got to be the very first. So the minute you stepped into the side of the barn, you could see this big banner of it first. And, well, there was two. We had it 2 years, so I don't know. That might have been the last, but we definitely were the first that had ever done it and had it all listed. And I think maybe they kind of began to look at us a little bit, the starting of the show, but we did have livestock, and I don't know if we took top that year or not, but we did take top before, well, one of the 3 years that I'd had calves. So after that, I think they kind of watched to see what that club was doing, or our club was doing. But I can remember when the newspaper came out, there was a picture of it, and it had Grant Boosters 4-H, and it had a picture of that banner. And I kind of think that was the year that we took top. Another thing that I like to do during that fair time was the churches had a food. I won't say anyway. It was a building, and they had restaurants, and they didn't serve any full meals, but you could get hot dogs or hamburgers or something like that. And the first day of the fair, we put our calves in, but the second day was kind of a quiet day, or the second and third day were pretty quiet. So after I got my calf tended to in the mornings, and the fair booth open, or the food booth opened up about 10 or 10:30, I'd go over and see if they needed any help or if I could help. And I was 14 or 15 at that time. And they were glad to have the high school girls come over, or kids come over, because they'd open at 10 and wouldn't close till the carnival and everything had shut down for at night. So it was a long day. And this was run by the Alder Society, and the women, they would work different shifts, the ones that could. Sometimes there would be men that would help cook or do the dishes, which I never ever did, and do all the heavy work. But it was kind of fun to wait on people, and you got to see a lot of people. And I would just work during the busy time, because by the time they closed over by 2 o'clock, why, there was a lot of kids around, and the carnivals and games and so on had started working. And Mother and Eula were usually over there, one or the other of them, when I was working. We put in the orders, and sometimes if there wasn't a cashier there, why, we had a cash drawer, we'd make our own change, but most of the time we just take the orders and turn it in, and nothing hard, but some time to pass some time and so on till things opened up. Okay, on judging day was really a busy day, because before dinner ever started, why, they'd start judging, and we had to be out there with our calves, either to show or we watched. And the same way went on inside at the sewing and cooking, and they had room improvement. And a couple of our kids, and that was kind of interesting, a couple of our kids did room improvement. Now, this didn't have to be just 4-H kids. This was anybody that wanted to exhibit anything out of their garden, or any livestock or anything like this. So it was a pretty busy time. And then kind of to go along with the judging, most of the boys that exhibit a livestock project were in the FFA class at school. And so in the fall, they had a hayride. And we'd ride out in a car, and when we got out there, why, there was a farmer that had a hay rack, and it had some straw or hay on the bottom, and we'd set on bales of hay, and this tractor would pull us around to the other side. We went to Smoky Garden, so he'd pull us around on the other side of the lake, and they had this big bonfire going, and they roasted weenies and marshmallows and so on. I don't know what all we had to eat. But then afterwards, why, we sat around that bonfire for a while, and they put on a little entertainment. Sometimes the boys would put on a skit or tell us some kind of a story, and then we'd sing some school songs, and then the tractor would pull us on around the other side, and we'd get in the cars and drive back home. Well, that I only went once, and that time Bob took Betty Garrison as his date, and later my sister-in-law, and I went with my step-grandfather's grandson. So you might say it was kind of all in the family affair. Got to see where things are coming next.
Whoa, don't you know, there's nothing in the world like a livestock show. You better be ready, 'cause anything goes. There ain't nothing like a livestock show.